In Honkai Star Rail, every time you pull for a limited DPS character, it's like adding another sport card to the collection. But pulling for RuanMei is like getting the family SUV. It's not the most fancy, but it'll be your daily driver.
Well, this one's 13 years old, still runs like a charm.
Hey, this is Gladius. Welcome to my in-depth RuanMei guide. RuanMei is our first limited 5-star Harmony character, and also, in my opinion, the first must-pull character we have thus far. I'll be going over her kit, best way to build her with Relics, Lightcones, and the best team options. Along the way, I'll explain why she's such a broken character for the meta. Without further ado, let's get right into it. RuanMei's basic attack is nothing special. As you'll find out later, she mainly builds break effect, so don't expect too much damage. But RuanMei still ends up using 2 basic for one of her skill. After all, basic attack is important for generating skill points. RuanMei's skill is a 3-turn ability that counts on her own turn. She buffs the team's break efficiency by 50%, and that is not to be confused with break effect. Break effect improves the potency of break when it actually happens, mostly increasing the damage. Break efficiency, on the other hand, improves the rate at which enemy tough bars deplete. Weakness break in this game is not all about damage. Enemies can be interrupted mid-cast of a big ability, or even have their double turns completely chopped up. Even at the bare minimum, they always get pushed back. This is why break efficiency is far superior to break effect. RuanMei's skill also buffs the damage bonus of the whole team by 32% at baseline, and up to 68% when you have her Ascension unlocked. In order to reach this maximum 68, you do have to build a lot of break effect, which I'll go over in the build section. RuanMei's ultimate is a field that lasts for 2 turns, buffing the team's Res Pen by 25%, which is resistance penetration, and a buff that allows you to ignore the resistance of enemies. Having Res Pen has the same equivalent output as having enemies' resistance being lowered. Due to the scarcity of Res Pen or resistance lowering mechanics, 25% Res Pen is very significant for DPS. The second part of RuanMei's ult delays the enemy action for 1 time when they try to recover from a weakness broken state, while dealing a small amount of break damage when this happens. Now, enemies already get pushed back by 25% when weakness break happens. This extra delay more than doubles that, and enemies will be locked down even longer in broken state. RuanMei's talent buffs her team's speed by 10%, but not herself. Also, when allies break enemy weaknesses, RuanMei delivers a huge follow-up break damage that scales with her own break effect. This damage is huge, and is responsible for most of her damage. In summary, I'd say a third of her kit is about dealing damage in the form of break effect. 2/3 of her kit is about boosting your team's damage. This is actually quite unique. We haven't had a Harmony character that actually do this much damage when properly built as a support. 50% break efficiency is hard to quantify and may be overlooked. And it's not a significant boost to damage per se, but defensively it's so invaluable by preventing CC and damage. So when you evaluate break efficiency, consider it having a hybrid of offensive and defensive qualities. When enemies are delayed in weakness broken states, you basically have free reign to execute your game plan without any disruptions. Not to mention, the less pressure enemies give you, the less skill points you have to spend on healers to heal back the damage. When comparing her with other damage boosting supports, mostly Harmony characters, the main thing you look for is how much damage they boost overall, and if they're boosting 1 DPS or the whole team. So, the most reasonable comparison would be separating the hypercarry DPS archetype with the dual DPS archetype and see how they perform. Of course, this will be more of an industrial average. Every DPS will be different case by case. So for hypercarry teams, it's no surprise we have the usual suspects, Bronya, Tingyun, and Hanya on top. They aggressively put most, if not all of their buffs on 1 DPS of the team, which is the most efficient way to buff a hypercarry setup. Now, when we're looking at dual DPS or anything more, we see a very different ranking. Here is where RuanMei truly shines. She buffs everyone on the team. Not only that, but her buffs are also universal, where she works with a traditional team or a team that puts a higher emphasis on DOTs and break effects. And remember, these rankings are DPS boosting only. They have not taken account into personal damage and the defensive utilities of having break efficiency, both of which RUAN MEI truly shines in. RUAN MEI truly does it all. She is the Swiss Army knife of supports. Okay, building stats on RUAN MEI, it's very simple, but not exactly easy, and is very important. Basically, you want to aim for a 180% break effect to take advantage of her final ascension trace that is responsible for 36% damage boost of the whole team. Also, break effect is responsible for the majority of her damage. Yes, RUAN MEI does a lot more damage than your typical support. Improving her damage really matters. The second stat we want to look out for is speed. Beyond reaching that 180 break effect, I highly recommend aiming for a 160 speed next. There's two good reasons for that. One is that she is skill point positive after all, so she's slowly generating skill points. The second reason is due to how her skill and ultimate works. You have so much to gain by having RUAN MEI go before other teammates. And remember, she buffs her own team's speed by 10%, and that just made it harder for her to get that much speed. Now let's look at main stats on Relics. For chest and the sphere, you really cannot have a meaningful main stat here. You cannot roll break effect or speed on these two pieces. Attack, crit, ice damage almost have no effect on her damage as well. So just like any other supports, feel free to slap on tank stats like HP or defense. It's worth noting that it's completely viable to ignore the main stat altogether and focus on getting break effect and speed for the substats. For boots, you definitely want speed. There's zero other alternatives. Speed is the way to go and very important. For rope, you'll want energy regeneration rope if you have really well built relics to reach either 160, 170, or 180 break effect, which is a lot easier said than done. With energy regeneration, you'll be way more consistent in pushing a 4-turn ultimate, and with specific Lightcones, which I'll go over later, you'll actually be able to achieve 3-turn ultimate rotation. But in a lot of cases with poor relic substats, you'd be better off just sticking with break effect rope, which massively lowers the difficulty to reach 180, which is the ultimate goal. Relic set bonus is another way to get more speed and break effect, which is always nice. Now, we don't have a 4-piece tailor-made for her, so nothing is going to be in the S tier. 4-piece thief set is not at all necessary. While it's nice to have that 16% extra break effect, but the energy proc is inconsistent. She relies on her teammate to break, not herself. The only set that provides value are Thief and Hackerspace set. I wouldn't stress too much about getting which, just focus on getting break effect and speed substats, and of course the right main stats. For ornament set, we have 2 of the energy regeneration sets on top of the list. They will make it more consistent for you to reach a 4-turn ultimate, and even better a 3-turn ultimate with specific Lightcones. Then you have the break effect set, which can help you reach that much desired 180% break effect threshold. For substats, you'll mainly be looking for break effect until you reach the 180%, and after that, you'll be looking to get as much speed as possible. Don't fixate on the other substats, they won't be nearly as impactful. Especially steer away from attack, crit, and effect hit rate. These have next to no impact to RUAN MEI's kit. Just for perspective, this chart shows how little attack and crit actually affects your damage output compared to break effect. Just briefly, I'll go over trace priority, as it's pretty simple. Break effect and speed are so good that even when leveling your traces, picking these up will be the priority, even compared to leveling the skill, ultimate, or talent. When leveling traces, make sure you get all the ascension traces first, and they're also crucial to RUAN MEI's basic functions. Alright, with the Lightcones, I'll again use a tier list to visually demonstrate how good they are. RUAN MEI's signature will be her best in slot. It improves her break effect, it buffs the team's damage, and even recovers 1 skill point every time she used her ultimate. And on every new wave of enemy spawn, she recovered 10 energy for the whole team, including herself. This Lightcone is not insane in any one aspect, it's so good because it does everything. The only Lightcone that can even come close to the signature is the max superimposed Memory of the Past. Not only does it provide the most important and much needed break effect, it is also just the best Lightcone for her personal energy regeneration. With an S5 you can achieve 100% consistency with a 3-turn ultimate on RuanMei, given that you have an energy regeneration rope and one of the energy regen ornament sets. An S5 Meshing Cogs is a 3-star Lightcone and very obtainable. Just like the maxed out memories, you can also aim for a 3-turn ultimate at 100% consistency. But it's still a tier lower because the amount of break effect required to reach 180 is just far too high while still using an energy regeneration rope. In my opinion, even an S1 to S4 Memories of the Past is still the better option at A tier. It is still her general best in slot outside of using her signature Lightcone. It's highly recommended to use Memories of the Past at any super in position if you have this. If you don't have a single Memories of the Past or an S5 Meshing Cogs, I will highly recommend using the Battle Pass Lightcone or Bronya's Lightcone if you have them. And my recommendation stops there. I don't believe Lightcones sitting at tier C or lower should be used on RuanMei. They're not bad Lightcones per se, but they're just not complementary to how RuanMei plays. Dance, for example, will waste a lot of its value when used right before teammates take action, but that is exactly how you want to use RuanMei's ultimate. The Planetary Rendezvous is an amazing Lightcone by itself, but I really don't like it on RuanMei for 2 reasons. The first one is that she doesn't want ice damage herself, it just doesn't help her. The second is that RuanMei is not a niche support for ice teams at all. She is the most universal Harmony character we've had thus far. I wouldn't sacrifice this flexibility even for the Lightcone. The only exception here is that if you're all in on Jingliu, then I guess this Lightcone is pretty great for that. Right now, due to her being the first limited Harmony character and the lack of competition, she fits into every team. Although her specialty is buffing 2 or more damage dealers, even in a hypercarry team, she is still one of the best. This is because what she brings to the table is so different to other Harmony characters, she can be played alongside them with little diminishing returns. RuanMei is highly adaptable to every team, so I won't tell you exactly what the teams will be, but I will go over the general team archetypes and their core structure. In a hypercarry team, she is best paired alongside another damage buffer that really excels at buffing 1 damage dealer. Together, they bring any 1 DPS to their maximum potential. And because RuanMei offers defensive utilities with break and pushbacks, the sustain slot can literally be filled by any healer or shielder we have. They can easily sustain the team. After the release of RuanMei, more and more emphasis will be put on a dual DPS team comp. This style of team building has been mostly neglected until now because we've recently just got Topaz, and Kafka is still waiting for more DOT teammates to be released. Being a buffer of the entire team, RuanMei really blows the other competition out of the water. RuanMei's kit is so powerful that she can uplift every team with 2 or more damage dealers. Again, using a tier list to rank Eidolons from the most impactful to the least impactful, we have 2 Eidolons sitting in the S tier. As RuanMei already do impressive damage as is, E6 more than doubles her personal damage, qualifying her to be a bonafide DPS. It also extends her ultimate by 1 turn, which is a very nice quality of life addition. Going for E6 is pretty overkill and is hard to recommend. What's more interesting is her E1 also sitting in S tier. With E1, she also provides 20% defense ignore for the whole team when her ultimate is active. 20% defense ignore is so good because it just adds another utility to her already overloaded kit. In combination with the 25 res pen, RuanMei feels like a Harmony character and a Nihility support built into one. This is her best Eidolon, it is selfless, and it makes the whole team great. Being just the first Eidolon, I can confidently recommend you go for it if you wanted to invest a little more into RuanMei. The second Eidolon buffs 40% attack to the team, with the condition that enemies are weakness broken. It's slightly higher buff than her first Eidolon, but being more restrictive. I feel like a lot of damage will be done before enemies are even broken. And after they're broken, they're more prone to overkilling and wasting potential damage, so it really depends on the content. I see the Eidolon 2 at its maximum potential when facing extremely tanky elites or bosses in the endgame. When pulling for early Eidolons, my recommendation stops at E2. A general priority will be E1 over Lightcone over the E2. RuanMei will have a very friendly curve of investment. She is completely busted even at E0 with free-to-play friendly Lightcones. And if you wanted to invest more, you also have nice early Eidolons that is budget friendly. Going all the way to E6 is really only for RuanMei mains that want to do insane personal damage. It would be overkill for your average player. Now, there's a reason why they held off so long before releasing their first limited Harmony character. Since the very beginning, starting with Zila, being a hunt character with a pseudo AoE mechanic, to Jingyuan, an erudition character with high single target scaling. Hoyoverse tend to give limited 5-star characters additional utility that overstep their boundary of intended role and path. But when it comes to Harmony character, which is already heavily used and stables for many teams, giving them an overloaded kit becomes even more deadly. A universal Harmony character can be so powerful, they can be slotted into every single team comp, regardless of weakness type. When you have an overpowered support that you can put into any team, you essentially take one team slot out of the equation in a game that requires 4 characters. This is why RuanMei is a must pull from a meta point of view. I know that's a bit controversial, the game is not hard enough to require you to use any specific character to beat the game, but what I want to convey is that RuanMei is just a tier above when it comes to value for your account, as you'll get way more mileage out of her compared to any DPS character. Alright guys, that's all I have to say for RuanMei. Hope you can support the channel by subscribing. My name is Gladius. Thank you for watching. Until next time.